Hi, Megan here with the NCW Life Channel. We are here with Barry King with the Chelan Douglas Health District. Barry, there have been several reports recently about rabid bats found. Can you tell us about rabies?
Well, rabies is an unusual disease because it's one of the very few that's always fatal. There have been only one or two people in medical history who've ever recovered. So when people are exposed to an animal like bats that could be rabid, we're very conservative about how we deal with it, and we've had a lot of bat encounters with people this year. An unusual number, about twice as many as we had last summer. And of course, the summer isn't over yet. So we've submitted 38 bats for testing with the State Public Health Lab, and of those, 5 have turned out to be positive. And of course, a number of people have had rabies shots as a result.
How do you test bats for rabies?
Well, you have to send them to the State Public Health Lab, and a local health department like ours has to do that. So, and what they do is test the brain of the bat. So the bat doesn't have to be alive when captured, but it has to be in good enough shape that they can do that. Occasionally we'll deal with a bat that's been run over, abused, and can't be tested. And then people who've been exposed to it would have to get rabies shots because you don't know if the bat had rabies.
And what does a rabid bat look like? Are they still flying around? Are they laying on the ground?
Well, they look like every other bat. Probably the main difference is that if you see a bat flying around in daylight, there's probably something wrong with that bat. It doesn't mean it's definitely rabies. Probably about 1% of the bats in the wild have rabies. And of the 38 we've tested, as I said, 5 were positive, so that's a little more than 10%. Because once they're flying around in town, they're probably sick in some way. But, you know, they don't look any different. They're not a different color. You know, they might be dead or they might be sluggish, but then again, that can be caused by a lot of things. But rabies is so invariably fatal that we're very conservative, and we work with people and their doctors to make sure that they don't take any chances.
What are some symptoms of people and animals that exhibit rabies?
Well, once they have rabies, a person or an animal will, begin with relatively mild symptoms, even flu-like symptoms, but it rapidly progresses to much more serious symptoms, to nervous system dysfunction and convulsions and that sort of thing before they die, in a human anyway. And they really are repelled by water, so that idea of hydrophobia is not a myth. That actually is part of the syndrome. So it's a really pretty ugly disease. But if you get rabies shots within a few days of an exposure, that will prevent the rabies infection.
How is rabies transmitted from a bat to a person?
Well, it generally involves exposure to the bat's saliva, and that can take a number of forms. Of course, if a bat bites you, that's one thing. Bats will sometimes land on a sleeping person and lick their lips or their eyes where there's moisture. If a bat licks itself and then you touch its body where it licked it and you have a hangnail or a small cut, that can expose you. So with a disease this bad, we're really conservative, and infections have occurred with what seem like minimal exposures like that.
What should a person do if they find a bat?
Well, first of all, if it's just a bat in an innocuous place, they should wait and see if it flies away. If it's just, say, on a wall or something like that. If it's in a place where people could be readily exposed to it, or where you think people or pets have been exposed, because pets count too. If your pet gets rabies, you can get rabies. They should, first of all, not touch it. And the best thing to do is to call animal control if you're in an area that they serve. They serve most of our area. Or call public health. We have some good information about how to capture a bat if you have to, and that can be done with thick gloves and by holding a couple layers of plastic bags to grasp the bat. If it's a live bat, it can be trapped with a large can or a box, and then you slide a flat piece of cardboard between that box and the wall. So there's information on that on our website, and the website is cdhd.wa.gov.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Megan McPherson, NCW Life News.